Hey, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Everybody's Always Right. And we have a special guest today that's going to be an amazing person I like and admire very much. His name is Mark Krupa. He is a screenwriter, an actor, a producer. He's been on many shows. He acts both in English and in French, which is pretty awesome if you think about it. He's been in a lot of Canadian movies, Canadian TV shows, American movies. So here we go. Our friend Mark Krupa. Mark, welcome to my show. Hold on, there we go. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Styles. Thank you very much for having me. What an intro! I wish you were my publicist.
Haha, I could be. So, have you been? First of all, how's your COVID summer?
I've been keeping well. I've got lots of reserves of toilet paper and tuna, which sometimes I struggle with my cats. So I'm good. You know, we can go on for another 4, 5, 6 months. No, it's been a little dystopic and a little challenging for sure, certainly in this business, as you can imagine. So I've been spending a lot of time writing my own projects, and now hopefully we'll be back to not necessarily a new normal, but a better normal, hopefully.
So yeah, the film industry and the production industry slowed, really completely altered until from March, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a bit disconcerting for a lot of filmmakers. I actually had a good May doing voice work because voice continued. So I do voice work for video games, and that was certainly pleasant. It forced me to develop remote studios and find remote studios where companies like Ubisoft will actually record from home, which was new and interesting. But yeah, there was a general complete, and I was on hold and auditioning, and then the whole industry kind of went, nope, we're going to take a pause.
So yeah, you let's talk about that.
Sure.
So you're mid 40s, let's say.
Plus tax and GST. Yeah, let's say. Well, because the years spent fishing and drinking rosé don't count. So yeah, around there.
Oh, then you're 30, and then you're 13. So you're actor, producer, writer. You've had an interesting life. You've always put yourself in situations that reflect your ambition or what you like to do. So we've known each other for a couple of years. I've seen a lot of your work, and we've worked together on certain projects. So why don't you tell us a little bit how this came about? Because if I'm not mistaken, you also have an MBA in.
I just recently got a master's in drama therapy at Concordia.
There you go, drama therapy.
I majored in psychology and a minored in theater, but recently, a couple of years back, went back to Concordia to get a wonderful program, the Creative Arts Therapies program, which was really invaluable to me in understanding. Not only I coach actors as well, but it's been a very valuable experience, and also helped in my filmmaking because with my teacher there, Bonnie Harnden, I actually adapted her therapeutic play called You Arrive, and I had to invent a new genre, if you will, called an edu-drama. You Arrive is about breaking the cycles of trauma, and we used, of course, top actors in Montreal, Amber Goldfarb, Catherine Deribé, and I had to adapt. We're in post-production now, and hopefully it'll be a very powerful tool and a vehicle to help people understand how to break cycles of trauma, which more and more in these, as you mentioned, post or continual COVID times is going to be more perhaps useful.
Yeah, for sure. We're all going to need a little bit of therapy. Excuse me. So what brought you to acting and screenwriting? So you're saying that you minored in theater, right? So you already loved it from a young age?
Yeah, since I was young, I had a bit of a rough childhood, and I just decided early on that I'm really going to do everything I can to follow my bliss if possible, and just do things that I like and try to earn a living. So I started off as an outdoor writer photographer, working for fishing magazines because it's a big passion of mine. I would work for Outdoor Canada, those kind of magazines get sent to Brazil, India when I was young, so that was obviously fun, and Russia. But theater was close to my heart. I took it in high school, Collège Marie France. I then took classes at the Actors Studio in Montreal at the time, which Andrea Kenyon, who's now a casting director, was running with her father. And so that was a big passion. And then I got into a wonderful multicultural theater troupe in Montreal Serail, They do it's a arts and political easy now, one of the oldest in Canada. So that was a powerful vehicle to sort of realize that I really enjoyed acting theater. And then I started from there auditioning, trying to get a casting director, maybe an agent. And it's actually strangely what launched my career, Styles, is I was in Russia. I got this gig where I'm managing in the Kola Peninsula, Russia. I'm like 26 years old, and this.
Where is that? Like, it's north or south or?
Yes, it's quite north. In north, it's 400 kilometers past the Arctic Circle. So imagine, the peninsula is where Murmansk is, and it's to the north of these wonderful salmon rivers that the president of my company had sole access to. But then when the Soviet Union broke down, it started to divide. There's different companies that wanted to fish there because it stayed quite virgin, those rivers, comparatively. And Atlantic salmon is very lucrative, like, lifestyles of the rich and famous type people love to fish there. And I was hired to be camp manager. So to act as liaison between the Russian staff and the rich, eccentric Europeans who would come to fish there. It's like Jane Fonda, Ted Turner. Well, what happened, Styles, is that after a couple of years, many people wanted access. So basically you have, the Russian government breaking down, military not getting paid. And then you have high-ranking officials who are not getting paid claim that they have the rights to the river. So they start selling these rights to the French, hold on, I just got a call over here, so I'm just gonna make sure that I get rid of my phone. So they had this incredible situation where every official would sell exclusive rights to different factions, French, Dutch, Swedish, Americans, and they freaked out because now all of a sudden they're building $1 million lodges in the middle of the Arctic Circle, and all these rich, millionaires are going there to spend $10,000, $20,000 a week, and it's not exclusive anymore. They're not allowed to fish because there's so many camps being built, and that caused the New York Times had an article called the Kola Salmon Wars. And one day, Styles, all this to say is that one day I'm in camp in this giant Mi-8 helicopter. These helicopters are amazing. They can fill villages, and they're going, and they kind of land in camp, and 20 paramilitary with Kalashnikovs and I come pouring out, pointing machine guns to me, our clientele. And I had the key to a big vault of vodka, and I go, guys, can we discuss this a bit more, perhaps? And so we discussed it, and all this to say is that they were hiring these Russian mafia or paramilitary to enforce the law. We got kicked out of our camp, but all this prolonged parentheses of a story to say is once I got back into Montreal, Ginette D'Amico, casting director, said, Mark, I'd left a casting photo with her, and it was with me holding a fish. So she said, that's so crazy that nobody ever has. So don't do that. Actors don't hold fish in your casting photos, your headshots, please. I strongly dissuade you from doing that. But she remembered me and she said, Mark, do you want to audition for the role of a Russian mafia? And I go, really? Russian mafia? Well, funny you should mention that. And so I got a role in Police de Zero Set, and since then I do lots of Russian mafia on a good day. Yeah.
So oops, I thought I was on mute, but I wasn't. So sorry, there's something funny just popped out on our screen. So are you born in Montreal? Are you born in Montreal? Yeah.
Yes, I was born in Montreal. Yes, I was born in Montreal. So is my mom. So I'm half Polish, half Slovak. So that's where it's in the Kola Peninsula. I learned how to be. I learned sort of Russian there, and in school I learned a bit of German. So I found out that my niche to begin with, so starting out in my mid to late 20s, was Russian roles, Germans, Europeans. So I got more and more casting into there. I got a couple of roles in The Hunger, and then it started to develop. I was auditioning more, getting roles, and I thought this is great, and I could continue doing outdoor writing, photography. Writing was always strong to my heart, and then these two, this acting, this love of acting and fishing and writing, would eventually merge. Later on, I, with a friend of mine, we produced a show called Hooked with Mark Krupa, which is a fishing show. And then since then I did Zooville, which was a kid show. So always the acting and outdoor writing was slowly coming together until finally with a friend of mine who I played Dungeons and Dragons with a long time ago, and just stopped recently playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Did you just admit to playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh my God! Well, no, yes, I was a disaster, chronic constantly 3 a.m, basements, mold, Dungeons and Dragons, and so much so we were a very escapist group that did that. And then so with Alex Francois, the director, we decided to. I wrote the screenplay called The Wild Hunt, which was based in a live action role play, Grandeur Nature, and we were very. I was always interested in the story of fantasy and reality colliding. Ourselves, we were very much escapist. We deal with escapism like as a way of coping with anxiety and trauma, but it really cultivated imagination, and we played with a quite eclectic group, and certainly cultivated my imagination, and that became my staple or my genre, if you will, is mythic drama. So whether it's sci-fi, fantasy.
That's in what you write. We're talking about your genre in what you write, not specifically in when you act, right?
No, and
you acted for a lot of the different things, but you like to write in.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. When you're starting out, you do whatever you can to get a gig. The Eastern European thing in Quebec. Quebec does have a star system for French. In French Canada and English Canada, not so much. You have to usually run to the States to get sort of known, but that doesn't mean that you can't branch out. I think my strength has been always versatility. Like not only do I do English roles or French, but I was allowed, when I'm lucky, to do voice. Mocap video games, for example, is very big. A lot of my colleagues do very well working in video games. But certainly The Wild Hunt was that sort of desire, that film. And actually, we did the film. We shot it in 35mm, and actually did well. It won a couple of awards. It won at TIFF, which was a kind of a big deal at the time, and it won a Slamdance.
A huge deal.
How
long ago was The Wild Hunt?
It came out 2010, so we're talking 10 years.
Yeah, it's still pretty recent, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, in film though, that's ancient. It's what do you got next?
It is, but in a sense, it is. But if you talk to screenwriters, etc., some it's been 30 years, so 10 years is really not that bad.
Fair enough, it's true.
Right. So, but you're still acting, right? You're still. So you were saying that you also did voiceovers, and do you do like for video games? They also sometimes take your form to reproduce it in a game. Have they done that with you?
Yeah, of course. It's called mocap, motion capture. Right. So I've done quite a lot of that in games like the Ubisoft, the Eidos, their staple games, and a couple more.
How fun is that? Like, is it something you enjoy doing?
It is fun. Like a good friend of mine who does a lot of it said it's a sort of a mix between theater and television acting, where you do have to use your body. It is quite physical, so you can't get away with just less is more face expressions. You're gonna have to get a little more animated. It's
more theatrical in the sense that you use your body.
You're using your body
exaggerated, right?
Yeah, you have to still express movements. So when you're in it's quite impressive. Now they're having they record mocap differently, but when you're in the green, you're surrounded by like 60 calibrated cameras, and it's quite impressive. The technology that the computers being able to recognize several actors in their exoskeletons, and then artists going and drawing them after, and the final result is really impressive. Sometimes I'm quite amazed with the continued technology of mocap.
No, I agree. So I like in my first life, I was a 3D animator, right before it all started.
Mm-hmm.
And it used to be so painful to digitize anything at all. So movement was like organic was the most impossible thing to do, right? So that's why Toy Story was such a huge success, because they had found some way of doing it almost organic, but it wasn't, but it almost organic.
Well, exactly what you say. One of my first gigs actually was a mocap one way back in the day, where the suit was connected to wires all over your back. So like you were like ready to touch down on the moon. And now I just did a gig where the cameras are actually in the suit, and so they don't even have the cameras on. So it's really evolving incredibly. Especially face capture has evolved incredibly with cameras as well. So kudos to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now they can even program vowels and speech impediments within the software. So once they have your speech and your facial expressions, they can reproduce it as many times as they want, which is pretty insane.
Exact.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you a really weird question. So you've acted on Canadian English dramas or shows, and you've acted in quite a few French ones. And you were saying that there's an established star system in Quebec, and that's pretty often in like little communities that are in the middle of a bigger community. Usually that happens, but How like what are the biggest differences between working in the English and versus the French community? Like
Well,
what do you say like that is like like I'm on a completely different world?
Well, it just so a star system it's a good thing and a bad thing. When you're an actor, actually, so I think a star system can be a good thing. If I was more Quebecois, had a French Canadian accent, I'd be able to, I think, get more larger roles. So what it means is that in Quebec, it's a smaller community. They tend to know each other. So once you get known in Le Téléroman, once you've been in Virginie and this other thing, producers know who you are, will call you, will ask for you, will offer you roles, which you don't necessarily get in English Canada. So, for example, recently I was just offered a role. It's not a big role, but I was offered a role in L'Échappée, which I'll be doing in the next couple of weeks.
Which is a well-known here in Quebec. Oh, I think we're losing you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of pause. Are you there, Mark?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you. I just took my camera off. You want me to put it back on?
No, we're good. We're good. Go ahead. Please continue with what you were saying.
Yeah, I just got a role in L'Échappée where, like, at least I was offered a role, whereas in English Canada, you don't necessarily get offered roles like that. You still have to always audition, so that's a nice thing. So having a small community, once an actor, it helps. It's always hard to break in, but once you're in, you can get more constant work. Whereas English Canada, you're kind of always starting off from the beginning, but yet again, it's a wider market. So then the idea is to maybe be able to be seen a little bit in Toronto and Vancouver and in Montreal. But again, most of the actors who, tend to really make it in the English community tend to have some presence in Los Angeles or US, unless they're doing like stunts or a coordinator. But that's a generalization. But, a star system can be a good thing as well as there's pluses and minuses to everything as usual.
But what's the main difference in working in that environment? Like putting aside the fact that there's a star system, like working in the French system versus working in the English system, like is it different? Are the productions the same way, or budgets are similar? Like what are the main differences between the two communities and the way they produce?
Well, I would say so. In English Canada, I think you divide it into Canadian local productions, English Canadian productions, which are quite low budget and somehow match a bit the French. The French ones are very like in Montreal, for example, we have a lot of téléroman. Like that's a format that's those
like a daytime shows a little bit, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's a mix though. So they have those kind of dramas which you don't see as much in English Canada. You'll have more of the movies of the week, like Incendo is doing that kind of thing, and then you have of course the big American productions. All of a sudden you go, wow, you have this big crash of in Canada of these American productions. Like I'm on hold for a small role in Moonfall with Halle Berry, which has been delayed, of course, to COVID. But those inject, like Roland Emmerich comes to Montreal a lot, injects a lot of money. X-Men comes to Montreal. Usually actors, unless you have strong LA representation, don't even have a chance to get a decent role. But, there was a time, like when I was starting off, Americans would come to just Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. So that was Hollywood North kind of deal. And since then, of course, the studio landscape has evolved to include New Zealand, Australia, Madagascar, Czech Republic. And so the Americans are a bit spread out. And so, of course, in the Quebec budgets, a lot of my friends who are stunt coordinators say there's not enough action, there should be more stunts. So there's certainly that. It tends to be lower budget for sure. But we do what we can with the money we have, and for me, it's always about good story or good drama, and I'm happy to do it.
You're right, because sometimes an action scene may not be over budget and still get the same kind of feeling as a high budget movie, just because the way it's integrated into the story, it feels like 16 times more powerful than that huge explosion in that war movie. So sometimes action is relative, and so what's the actor, the French actor, Patrick Huard, right? So when he produces movies, he made them look like they were multi-million-dollar productions. So I'm sure there's always a way to pull it off.
Well, yeah, I call it. Sometimes in films you have gratuitous violence and gratuitous action, perhaps sometimes gratuitous sex, of course. But the idea is that, I was always, as a kid, a King Kong fan. I love that. And I saw the Peter Jackson. I love Peter Jackson. But really in the movie, did we need to see for 40 minutes the giant ape wrestle the dinosaur? Like, I was good after 3, you know, and we could move on to more story, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Well, I think my helmet just quit.
I think yours did, yeah, because I can hear you now.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so sorry about that. So
it's living in the remote age.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, every podcast there's been some kind of, you know, it's a new podcast, and every single time there's been like some kind of small issue, but we're getting along with that. We're trying to kind of make it work, but sometimes it just doesn't want to work, and that's fine. We get used to it.
Well, that causes, yeah, I remember. So recently I also had my first Zoom audition with the casting director. I have to tell you, Styles, whoa, that's very weird because
Yeah, it must be, eh?
It's such a human experience, acting, and I love to have a good reader to feed off, or even the casting director in the room to see their body language or determine on how we can, you know, achieve role authenticity or try things. But over the net, it's just it's a necessary adaptation we have to take for now. I think there's a lot of good with people, you know, working remotely. But then again, the fundamental human contact is something that I think is what we're missing out on a lot in these COVID times, which is making it difficult for many.
Yeah, it makes sense. And so my other question was, let's say you were saying that in the U.S., getting casting calls is a lot. Not in the U.S., sorry, in French Canada, in English Canada, you don't get casting calls the way you do in Quebec. So how do you get those roles?
Well, in Quebec, I got decent roles for, you know, I've just played fun roles like in Beliveau, the series, others. But to be lead roles, generally speaking, lead roles normally, because they're Quebec productions, are for Québécois. Québécois play the lead. In other words,
of course,
someone who is a French-Canadian looking guy. You have your Luc Picards and Rémi Girards and those. Well, when they get known, though, finally, they're like, okay, well, the audience likes them. They want to go see them. And so the producers go, well, I need to have Luc Picard and Rémi Girard in every film. Otherwise, they won't come. And similarly,
like in the U.S., I mean,
like yeah, exactly.
Once they have a milk cow, they're going to milk it. They're going to milk it until they can, you know, until we get bored with them. Yeah,
well, yeah, which sometimes we don't get, but that's always. So it's hard for new actors to always break, but that's the industry. It's not easy. I'm a member of 2 unions, and there's months I go without working, and or even auditioning. Sometimes it's feast or famine, and we got to evolve and get used to it.
But the recruiting, like the actor recruiting system between English Canada and Quebec is different also? They don't, or is it pretty much the same process? You go through the same casting directors, and you just hope you get the role?
Well, in Montreal, there's more French Canadian casting directors than English. The casting process is similar. I actually prefer the French casting process because when you get called in for a role, they actually have a reader, you know, warm you up beforehand as you're coming in, like the live. That's interesting. But now more and more, what I'll do is I'll send in, many actors do it as well. I just feel more comfortable instead of time of just auditioning your first audition anyway via self-tape. So self-tapes are a big thing. A lot of actors, especially now with COVID times, that's your first initial contact with a producer, casting director, or director will be that self-tape. So I advise all actors to get really good at self-taping. And then if they want to see you in a callback or via Zoom in a callback or live in a callback, that's when I would come. That's what I would prefer to do because I have my team and I do that.
Okay, so the way I see it, actors are just like any entrepreneur or so self-employed people, right? They're always at risk. They never know when it's going to come in, and they have to keep working and make sure everybody sees them. And the whole point is like self-marketing, right? So personal brands. So it's kind of an industry. How do you navigate through that? So I know a lot of artists, including you, and I know that part, the business part, is usually not part of their not part of the way they do things, right? It's not what they're used to. Their mindset doesn't work that way, but they do it every day. They end up being entrepreneurs absolutely every day.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think the actors that are most successful are successful entrepreneurs. They're very disciplined. I always tell people, as an actor, I'm always employed and I'm always unemployed, because you're constantly looking for work anyway. That, though, as you get older, does get stressful. So it's really difficult to manage, especially in relationships and people who are close to you. It's this constant not knowing. And then if, God forbid, you should plan something, you get this gig and then it's canceled. It happened to me so many times. So there's that, there's patience, there's resilience. You really want, you have to want it. And then hopefully you can schedule your work where if you get the bigger roles, though, you take those and you plan your life accordingly. And then it gets interesting. It's all about, keeping the spirit and passion alive. If you still love doing it, I encourage everyone to keep doing it. But there are certainly, I think everyone would agree there's rough times in all facets of production, but looks like there's rough times in all facets of work now anyway.
Oh, that's for sure. Right now, everybody's bleeding. But so as an actor, yeah, exactly. So, but a lot of them have like side jobs. Others, like, I have friends that are actors in French series and in English series, and there are two ways for them so far. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And one of them is to have a side gig or a side hustle, or one or two or three, right? And the other one is to self-produce and try to push what they produce as much as possible. So actors that have a name, it's easier for them to self-produce. I know a lot of very well-known actors. The reason why they keep working is because once they've had enough success, they keep self-producing and proposing like as many scripts as possible to studios and Netflix and everybody else until one is accepted.
Well, you're absolutely right. I agree 1,000%. So during these COVID times, for example, I took really the time to hone, to perfect, to create new projects, and then you get into the submission process. But the problem, Styles, once you become an independent producer, is we live in a subsidy industry in Quebec and in English and French Canada, the same, SODEC or Telefilm, etc. And the paperwork involved can really drain you. And it's not just the question of work. It's a question of, as an actor, you get rejected. But I looked recently at my files of all the projects that I've submitted, and I realized, oh my God, I could have, had a PhD in fish psychology with all these, it's the same amount of work. So you got to say, so the big producers, the ones who are successful, actually have someone 9 to 5 every day submitting for development, submitting for financing. They might submit 20 projects a year. If they get 1 or 2, they're good. But an independent producer, you can't submit. Like, it really sucks your energy, and you're not making money doing that. So if you have connections, and I'd advise starting off, try to do low budget stuff with friends, short film series. That's why I got into more web series, to try to be more in control of my destiny. So lately, I have one project I'm working on now with Quebec author Adriana Reeves, called based on her Zither novels, and I've adapted it into a feature film / web series called Twin Worlds. So I'm working on that, and I have a dark comedy now that I'm working on called In the Cards, which is a transformation of the Echelon project that we worked on earlier. It's always interesting to see. What's interesting as a writer, you get to follow your work, you get to submit it, you get to get a lot of feedback, and then you see what works. I originally had, for example, the Echelon series that we briefly collaborated on was more of a dark suspense thriller, more of a straight up drama. And I started to do a more comedic version of it, which had its shortcomings, but I merged it now together in the incarnation of In the Cards. And I really find that dark comedy voice is really working. It tends to be what I enjoy writing. And it's also because it's easy to get caught, drama, it's so sad, it's depressing, and then comedy to try to be light and fluffy. But I think this genre of dark comedy is really fascinating to me, very challenging, very difficult. When you get it right, you just feel you can entertain and yet be evocative. But of course, like all writing, it has its challenges.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In Canada, like dark humor or humor associated with a little bit of drama has always been a winning combination. Sarcasm, like we in Canada, even in English Canada, we have a little bit of that European sarcasm. Sure. So usually a little bit of humor snuck in between a few dark moments is always winner here. But so I'll get back to that. So first of all, I am extremely I am a pro web series kind of guy, right? I think that's where we can all self-produce, and I think that's where we can make money. And a good example of that is there was a bunch of kids from YouTube. I call them kids because back then they were pretty young, and they created something that was called Video High School or Video Game High School, and it was a series that became a huge success. And the guy that produced it, this was produced by like a YouTube company that was called Rocket Jump. And sadly, he was a huge star on YouTube, a huge star on the internet, and he started to put that aside because he was working so well, and high school video game high school were such a huge success that he said, my dream is to be into a large format theaters, and I want to be out there, and I want to work in the cinema industry, and he completely lost himself in there. And now, when you're online, you cannot stop branding yourself online. That's the main issue, right? People want to see you. They'll see your content and they'll love your content, but they want to know who you are and that you need to brand yourself. So the moment he did that and started working in the industries, and he was a special effects artist, and he was really good at what he did, and he self-produced like mega productions online. But when he started trying to go to the cinema and to go see and to go to the LA productions and try to get into that, he spent like 5-6 years for very little results. And the problem that happened from there is that when he came back, only the old, like 5 years on YouTube is forever. Yeah. And if you look at now, all the big YouTube stars are leaving. They're all getting banned for past stupid comments or whatever. Jenna Jameson, and they're all getting wiped off, right? But there is huge potential. People need to, like, this guy could have just kept going, just kept producing for YouTube, for YouTube Red, for Netflix, and it would have rolled. It would have worked. But that thing where you think you're good enough, like being good enough in this industry has nothing to do with success. Sure. There are plenty of crazy good producers, better than who we see, and that don't get picked up because the studio and the friends and who is a huge part of how it goes, and how they can manipulate you in making more money off your back. Also makes it, like, if you're talented, you're a producer and you're talented, and you're a little bit gullible, so that they can, like, the studios can make a little bit of money off you, a little bit more than anyone else. They'll pick you. For equal talent, they'll pick the one they make most money with.
Well, no, I completely agree. That's why I wrote Echelon, which became In the Cards, which is really about oligarchs who are just dying to use artists into their agenda, and so it's kind of fascinating. But yeah, you do. I'll send you the teaser. We also we need to stand out. Also, there's a fear now, I think, of you have to stand out no matter what. It's almost like negative publicity is better than any publicity. So if that makes me stand out, I must stand out. I must brand myself no matter what. Whoever has the most likes wins. Whoever has the most views wins. So there is that as well. But good content remains good content depending on the format. What I worry about, Styles, is that what I loved about the internet coming out is that we had this finally, instead of always having the same networks like ABC, NBC, CBS, etc., we have this wonderful platform to be able to finally allow private talent to shine. But then again, if you're not Netflix or the big, Crave or Hulu, or then you can't get on anyway. It's so you got to find your way to get on. So I agree with you. Branding is one way. You got to claw and scrape and do what you can. But at the end of the day, I think you do need to produce the content that is most authentic to you, because that tends to be
the people. Absolutely, I agree. I don't think the money is in the Netflix, though. If you want my opinion, I think Netflix is going to make money, but not you. As a marketer on my side, I'm looking at everybody's productions, and what I see is that the people, like you said, the people that produce for themselves on smaller networks find alternative ways of monetizing their productions, and a lot of them are big successes and make a lot of money, because then there's product placement within their productions. Then, like I said, the personal brand is huge, right? And you said positive or negative advertising is better than no advertising. Yes. So I agree with you that is complete bullshit, because it's even worse today. So you know what? This is good for you and whomever's going to work for you. The most important part about online right now for the past 2 or 3 years, and maybe the 3 or 4 years to come, and 4 years is an eternity. You can make $100 million in 4 years on the net, and you can get completely wiped off in 4 years. So yeah. So what is the key to success right now is the relationship between the creator and his audience. So people need to feel they're involved in the production. They need to feel they know you. They need to feel that when they go watch your movie, even though they don't know you, they're watching their buddy's movie.
Sure.
And they're clapping for their buddy who did that production. That guy that they feel close to. They don't know him, but the way he marketed himself, they feel like he's part of the family. And that's what they need. They need to feel that proximity to the creators, and that's the secret of success right now on the internet. That's the ultimate way to make it all work.
So you mentioned about proximity and fans. So I have my number one fan here, my muse. This is Loki. And when times get tough,
Loki.
Yeah, so I actually put my cam on next. I think we can get a signal. I just I love this little fur face, but also he's also a star in my web series, and I hope I'm actually going to talk to you about starting a web page about Loki. So we'll talk about that again, and maybe Loki will be a good content aficionado, and maybe a lot of my independent buddies will be able to latch on to that. Cats work, right?
Cats work with aunties and women and ladies. But I'm
an old cat lady.
Crazy. Yeah, I know you're emphasis on the crazy, but no, seriously. You, on the other hand, so this is the thing about you that I like, right? First of all, you're a hard worker. No one can take that away from you. You work hard, and you put everything, your blood and sweat, and you put it all in. But what I like about you is when we see you on screen, you have a very very strong presence, but you do have that humorous side to you. You're very artistic, you're very articulate, but you're also very funny. And so, yeah, okay, you can play the mobster, but I mean, there's so much dimension. Like when you did the series of Sleeman commercials, you were playing the strict guy from the 30s and the 20s and the 50s, but you still had that little twinkle that made you funny and fun to watch.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that campaign. That actually campaign did very, very, very well for them, even though it was expensive. And I think that was just to echo and compliment what you're saying, that was an example of successful marketing for them. They did their research, they knew their clientele, and they wanted people to feel part of telling a story of history. It's not just always fun and pitoons and girls and drinking in bars. It was more about, if you drink Sleeman, you become part of that legacy, that history. And the storytelling aspect, I think people fundamentally haven't lost their archetypal feeling of when you're a child or when you start off huddling by a fire and being told a story. So for me, it always, no matter what, it's characters, plot, it has to be stories. And whether it's drama or comedy, life, I found in my most saddest moments, there's been humor, and in the happiest times of my moment, there's just been like total tragedy and trauma. So it's a way of tapping into both. I think that it's who we are as human beings. And I think when you look at actors, the good actors and the good writers, they'll create scenes and they'll create dramas where actors' characters can oscillate between that tragicomedy. And when we do, you don't want to always see an actor cry, but you want to see an actor on the verge of crying, on the verge of joy. And it's this cusp, in therapy we call it this liminal space of trial and error, and of which kind of embodies to me that human experience. And as a writer, they say good writing is always rewriting, and so I strive to, as I get older, to really push characters. And when I'm lucky enough to direct actors, I invite them to work together. I love actors, and I really trust them to go there, and I try to allow them to go there. And so hopefully we'll get more financing, even if it's not big, but I wish there'd be more. I'm trying hard to push to find those platforms, even low budget, but that we can get stories out there. So that's what I'm focusing on more now. As auditioning for smaller parts is getting, so I'm really going to try to do less projects, but do the ones that are more quality, and just try to, be happier. Because we're not here for a long time, and I promise you, whoever dies with the most RRSPs does not win.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. Security is first of all, it's a myth, and second of all, it's something you give to your children and your grandchildren. But if you look at it for yourself, then you're right. You're going to be dead. You're not going to have anything with you. You're just going to be dead. So if it was a boring ride and the journey sucked, and even if you do reach your goal, it's going to be a boring life.
Yep. One of the therapists I studied, Erik Erikson, did psychosocial stages of development.
I'm sorry, his name is Erik Erikson?
Erik Erikson, yes. Erik Erikson.
Parents. How sweet of them.
And his credo, his theory was psychosocial stages of development. And every individual had to go through a conflict during certain phases, certain stages of the life cycle. And in the last stage, which is prior to death, when you went on your last years, his phase is integrity versus despair. So at the end of the day, the idea is that you hope that you look yourself in the mirror in the final years and go, you know what? I took some bruises, I got cut, I got blasted, I fell down, I made mistakes. But at the end of the day, I remained authentic, or I led the most authentic life possible, because you want to feel that integrity much more than despair. I've seen in old age people do both, and it's, so I'm just hoping that I end up being one of those that don't gravitate towards the despair side, because some days, man, when you get rejected, when that project that you spent 4 months working on gets rejected, you just want to have rosé.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of rosé.
Yeah. Speaking of which, cheers. I think I'm going to move on from
the coffee.
Is it okay to rosé on YouTube? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm out of coffee.
We can do whatever the hell we want on YouTube. We're live, right? So they'll have to cut us later.
Okay, good.
So and plus we're not our audience at this time of the night. What time is it now? 8:15. Yeah, I think we're fine. I don't think anybody's gonna be complaining. So that's one thing. We're talking about legacy and financials and security. How do actors survive? Is it like, do commercials bring in the most money? Because we know small roles don't. So.
They don't. So because it's very simple with acting. You get paid by day. However better you are, your scale can go up. It's very difficult to generalize about actors in general, because everyone's parcours, parchemin, quest is so different. But at the end of the day, if you're working in a lead role, recurring role on a series, right now I've been fortunate enough to I got a recurring role in Working Moms, CBC series.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm going to try. It's a nice, funny series. So I'll be going there to Toronto. Is it going to recur or not? For how long? I mean, it's like, we don't know. It's always not knowing. But you do want to get days, and that allows you a certain amount of security, because otherwise you're always auditioning. You're always sort of starting over. And so it comes down to that. So it really is good to have a solid plan B. Right now I've kind of put my plan B into producing and acting. So I've kind of kept it in production, whereas before I did a bit more drama therapy. I worked with young adults with developmental delays for 3 years. I worked with group home kids for 2 years. And now I've sort of left that behind to push the production more. So I've kind of dropped my plan B, and then COVID hit. So I'm going, oh, okay. Yeah. So, you need to have enough money. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to do what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my question. So it's all a question, like you said, it's all a question of quantity at the end of the day. Like I'm not talking about like the actors that get the $1 million jobs. We're not talking about them. We're talking about like the everyday actor, right? That has to do second roles, third roles, and first roles, and TV commercials, and to survive. So that was my question. So I was told that, like, if you can grab a couple of commercial contracts, that helps the year, because usually it's like more of a bulk amount.
Absolutely. And you have residuals. What's nice is always to get a check when you're not working, but because it went on another cycle of 13 weeks. So of course, if you do a lot of commercials, that's going to be super helpful. But then you get burned out when you do commercials. Like, believe it or not, that Sleeman commercial that you mentioned, my counterpart in Toronto, like, yeah. I used to audition, quite a bit for commercials, and I'd get callbacks like one every 4 times, if not one every 3 times, actually, approximately on average. And he kind of did too. But after Sleeman, no. But yeah, I haven't auditioned for also. I think j'étais comme brûlé. I was a bit burnt out after, because once you do beer, you can't do kids commercials. But
come on, that's stupid.
Once you do alcohol, you'd be surprised how blacklisted you get for things for a while.
Really, that's dumb.
Oh yeah.
The same audience. I mean, whoever thought of that is an idiot.
Oh, don't get me started on advertising. I've heard some weird stuff. But then there's some actors who just think you can't, unless like there's certain things that I can't advertise stuff like beer I believe in, because I maybe drink one or two when I go fishing, maybe not always Sleeman, but I can't.
They have good beer, Sleeman. They do.
They do. Well, there you go. But so does Sapporo is pretty good too. Anyway, Sapporo actually bought Sleeman. Anyway, I met Mr. Sapporo, by the way, during. Really? I did. Wow. Which was an amazing. His story is great, and John Sleeman is pretty funny too. I had fun doing him, and I had fun going to the brewery. One of the commercials we shot was actually in Budapest, in Hungary. But like the amount of money, here we are as independent producers, killing ourselves to get $50,000-$100,000 to do our web series, and here they go, kaboom, $250,000. Let's go to Budapest with a whole camera crew. Why? Because we needed specific tunnels that you can't get in Guelph, Ontario, but they exist in Budapest, Hungary. So let's go. We went to Budapest, not to film the...
Wow, that changes the budget.
We went, yeah. And so, so there's a bit of that. Nothing exceeds like excess. Certainly on American feature films back in the day, they used to really throw a lot of money on the editing room floor, which now as an independent producer, I can't believe. It's another story. But, I also wish we had a way to alternately finance films better. Maybe it would take an English star system to do it. Easier said than done, because the subsidy all the time, it's not that I have anything against subsidy, but it's just, if it's really the only way to finance films other than private, which is not, that's also an issue.
It should be both, but the problem is, there are many problems. I mean, we have a few good movie companies here, but I mean, we have a lot of porn producers here.
Okay,
biggest porn producers in the world.
I'll take your word for it. I only know fish porn.
Really? So, you know Pornhub. Everybody knows Pornhub.
I don't know. I know Fish Hub. I'm starting. No, the reason I say that is because my website had so many. Even my Facebook page has so many fish on it that it's now there are more cats. But
we'll get into that after your fishing passion. So here's another question for you. I'm going to divide those one question into two questions. What is what you consider to be your biggest role you've ever had? And second, what is the role you most enjoy? Because usually they're not the same. So
that's a super good question. I think a lot of actors will. So when I started acting, I said, you know what, Mark, if at the end of the day you did one role that really had an impact that you could bite your teeth into, your journey would be successful. That's always what I wanted to do, that one role. Did I get it? I don't think I have so far. I think I've gotten close. I think since you mentioned it, there's 3 roles that, for different reasons. It's true when you produce your first feature film, it was shot in 35mm. So for sure, the role of Bjorn Magnusson, that escapist, that child, like escapist in a very dark tragedy, and that love relationship with the brother, I really, really felt it really embodied that fantasy and reality colliding, and the trauma of that so much that the stresses we face from always feeling that we need to escape our problems and stresses. So that was a big role. Human Trafficking, a supporting role where I played the horriblest asshole ever of violence against women and children, is like beyond horrible, certainly to me, and really affected. I didn't even know what human trafficking was. I was like the others who just think that's prostitution, whatever. But when I got to talk to the ICE agents, and Human Trafficking was a film, a lot of Quebec actors who are amazing now, Laurence Leboeuf, Catherine Bérubé. Her first scene I did with Catherine Bérubé, who I admire and I consider a friend to this day, and is on my productions, and a wonderful actress, so is Laurence. Human Trafficking was used by Amnesty International to raise awareness. So with Muse, we got to tour, and I did help universities did lectures and to open women's shelters and to raise awareness against human trafficking. So that was a very eye-opening, because it's a scourge, it's a plague that continues today. So that was very powerful, powerful role. Even though I was the biggest asshole in it, it's not that. It's about the project, because that's a good example. That film could have easily turned into a story about gratuitous violence or sex or whatever, but no, it was written by a wonderful Czech woman, and it was Christian Duguay was brilliantly directed and produced by Muse. it still got legs today. So that was meaningful. Another meaningful film. Oh, I'm going to go off. I think I'm going to stop my
I love that you know in
here.
advance. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Right. So another film another film that was really meaningful to me, an incredible experience that crews still talk about today, was Shake Hands with the Devil. So I auditioned for this role, Styles, like in April, and I plan on don't hear anything from it. I'm going to forget about it. I obviously didn't get it. It's for a military observer under Romeo Dallaire in the Rwanda genocide, right?
Right, now I remember it was with what's his name?
Roy
Dupuis. Yeah, he was very good in that movie. He surprised me.
Oh, absolutely, he was very good. I'll tell you the Malraux stories later, maybe. But so I did this audition in April. I don't hear anything. I have my whole summer planned. Then I get this call. Oh, Mr. Krupa, congratulations, you got the role in Shake Hands with the Devil. And I go, oh, sorry, what? Yeah, Shake Hands for the Devil. Take your time to decide whether you want to accept. You have until 2 p.m. this afternoon. Oh, by the way, the flight leaves on Friday, but take your time, Mr. Krupa. You have till 2 p.m. to decide today, and the plane leaves Friday. So I go, okay, well, okay, no, okay, I'll go. But wait a minute, don't you need to have those inoculation thingies, like against like yellow fever or malaria? Yes, that's right, Mr. Krupa. You need to get inoculated. That would be great. Yellow fever, malaria. So let us know you have till 2 p.m. and the plane leaves Friday. So I run like a chicken to get these malaria shots, the injection in Westmount, and the doctor looks at me. Well, Mark, I can do this, but you're not going to be protected for 2 weeks if you go. So I'm like, fuck it, let's just go. So I did it anyway and stayed in the hotel. But that experience of being in Rwanda, in Kigali, and actually filming in the same locations where the genocides took place, Styles, when you walk into those churches where women and children were killed, often by women and children, like one of the aides of Romeo Dallaire said, Mark, it wasn't just a bunch of burly warriors shooting and killing warriors. It was women with children on their backs, macheting women with children on their backs. That was the face of the Rwandan genocide in many cases, certainly in the churches. And so when you see those, which are all historical museum memorials now under Kagame, that was a really eye-opening experience. And in our crew, we had Hutu and Tutsi who were there basically during that time. They were young, and so they were working together now, but they would also break down during that remembering, and we had psychologists on set. So there, and going to actually see the gorillas in the mist where Sigourney Weaver filmed it, it was just such a surreal, engaging, primordial experience, very meaningful. And that role I'll remember well. And speaking with Romeo Dallaire also was very touching. I mean, I don't get starstruck, with actors too much, because I don't, but with Romeo Dallaire I was a little starstruck, and he grabbed me by the cheeks once and said, oh, you're playing Stefan Steck. He was one of, and by the way, Stefan Steck. So I incarnated this, they called them Milobs, military observers. He witnessed the Gikondo Church massacre, which was one of the bigger churches where people were massacred repeatedly. And he was held down and forced to watch these massacres, a very religious man. He later committed suicide. When I arrive in Kigali, and the producers go, hi, Mark, welcome to Kigali, your hotel's here. I just wanted to let you know, the character you're playing, he committed suicide. So I'm like, okay, well, welcome to Kigali. So, the trauma was certainly there. And so living that and having that experience in Africa and seeing a lot of NGOs and meeting people there that are really trying to help, in terms of world hunger and other things. And then just the challenges of the producers did such a great job of, and yeah, so me and Roy, we were often eating together. And so I took Malarone, the anti-malaria. I took a daily pill, but he took the weekly dose one, the big Kaboomski. So, and I don't know if you know, but the side effects of that are heavy, like crazy nightmares and dreams. So we were both hallucinating. Really? Oh yeah, like major, like headachy, LSD hallucinations, like sleepless nights of wild ass shit that we're like, oh man. And so we would talk about that quite a bit. And yeah, but that was really a wonderful experience.
You were filming?
Sorry?
So you were filming during that period?
We were, we filmed 6 weeks in Kigali so this is 12 years after the genocide. actually occurred. So sorry, I don't understand your question.
Yeah. So while you were taking the medication that was making you buzz and freak out and have hallucinations, wasn't that during like
we were, of course we were filled. You have to take, so the side effects, if you take anti-malaria pills, it's called Malarone, they might have different ones now. You take one pill a day, it's a bit mild, it's not so bad, but he was taking, at the time, he would opt for the 1 a week pill, which is the major one. And that really fucked you. Like, I was getting pretty messed up by just the daily doses at night. So I can't imagine him. It was like a big blast, And it's really a beautiful film, the way it starts, I find. That it begins like a therapy session with him asking, Romeo Dallaire, do you want to live, Romeo? And he's getting choked up and he can't.
Right.
And then it goes by. Anyway, so that was
but the whole movie was good. I mean, I watched it thinking I would, sometimes there are movies you watch and you think to yourself, I'm going to watch it because I have to, because it's the kind of movie you just can't not watch. It's history. And I wasn't expecting anything from it. And I like Roy Dupuis, but for many, many years he had very like this. It seemed to always be the same character.
Yeah.
So I never found back then that he had a lot of range. But I like him. But it's just he's not the actor I'm going to run to go watch.
Well, it's a good thing.
I saw that movie. Wow. He proved me wrong all the way.
Well, sometimes he got cast in this Toronto series like La Femme Nikita or something, and he was not into that role, and it was not really exciting to watch. The series itself wasn't great, but again, you just prove that if you get a committed actor to good casting, you put the right actor in the right role, and if you give them a chance, they can sometimes run with it, like really go for it. And he certainly did, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So Romeo Dallaire, right? That's his name.
Correct.
Am I wrong? Yeah. So he's a big man, right?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like what, 6 foot, at least 6'2".
Yeah, very solid, very solid. I think that what really warmed me to him in reading, I read the book before, and I read the book, and I said, "There's no way they can put this into a movie. It's going to be a disaster." And they actually managed, which is also incredible. And Roger Spottiswoode directed anyway. Romeo is so intelligent. When he grabbed me with Stefan Steck, he just goes, because he knew Stefan Steck was Polish, he just rambled on the whole military history of Poland in like 20 seconds, exactly from beginning to end. He's so intelligent, so knowledgeable on military history. This is a man who's trained to absolutely plan A, B, C, D, find solutions in conflict situations. You're trained since, as soon as you enter the military to do that as a general, but he was paralyzed from the UN to take any actions. So that was kind of really interesting. That kind of trauma kept coming up, and the consequences of that, and the whole Arusha Accord. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. But just asking me as I'm talking, I remember this now.
But it's great because it's fascinating. Plus, you got to meet him. I mean, this man is an international phenomenon, And anybody that hasn't seen that movie, what was the exact title again?
Shake Hands with the Devil.
Yeah, so anybody that hasn't seen that movie, you have to see it, not only because the actors are great, specifically my friend Mark, but because A, it's a reenactment, and a pretty accurate one. It's not very romanticized. And B, the sceneries are insane. There's a lot of emotion. There's just it's the whole package. I mean, the only thing missing is the sexy ladies, but there's no place for it there. You're not going to miss them. Trust me. So that's a movie you have to see. I have to say that I was really impressed with that movie.
Yeah, what made it stand out is because they actually filmed in the real locations, like the Amhoro Stadium, Hotel Rwanda, for example, was filmed in South Africa. So that left an authenticity that. And Rungeri, those volcanic landscapes. And that's the interesting thing to take away. I mean, we are tribal people in general. Africa, perhaps the most tribal. But the one place in Africa, which actually was the least conflict-ridden historically, was against the Hutus and the Tutsis lived peacefully because there was so many resources. It was so plentiful. But again, it's the identity cards, the caste system that forced the division of one versus the other. And so there's really a lesson to be learned there. Anyway, there's a lot of lessons, but sometimes But even more,
when politics starts taking control of something, it changes everything too.
yeah, absolutely. We're religion, politics. What's beautiful in Kigali Styles, they have this organization which is called Aegis, and Aegis is dedicated to preserve historically and document the history of genocides all throughout history. So you have in one museum, you know, Pol Pot. You have all
and it's there.
It's in Kigali, yeah. There's other ones, and when you get to see it all in its full, anyway, you know, I don't want to over depress the situation, but it's quite impactful to see, you know, human history and what we're capable of doing to each other, you know.
So it had a huge, like, for you to go through that and to go to that place and to visualize where it all happened and to have the history there available for you to see, and knowing that, you know, I know you. I mean, you get into a role, and all that pressure. It must have. It's one hell of an experience. Seriously, I mean, it is one hell of an experience. Not only do you play the role of an historical event and an historical person, you play it with a well-known actor that is an amazing actor, and you're there on location. And when you're not filming, you're surrounded by that reality that must still hover over the environment.
Oh, no question. That was the one of the most memorable filming experiences. And to this day, when I go to Toronto, I meet crew members who were on that. They categorically say that experience, that film, really impacted them the most.
I believe you. That it is pretty insane. I mean, anything that, you know, us as regular people, we just go to a museum and we're fascinated. And by the way, to all those people that have never been to a museum, maybe you should start. It really is worth it. So many people have never been to a museum. It's sad, but you know, we get impacted by the slightest things. Architecture, right? We walk in the street in downtown Montreal, and Americans come and say, "Oh my God, I feel like I'm in Europe." But that is so minor in comparison to going, let's say, in let's say au Liban, right? So like maybe 20, 30 years ago, going there, like you would see all the devastation. Well, now again, but not for the same reasons, but you'd see the devastation. If you go to Africa, certain places in Africa, you see the devastation. When you go to Europe and go to England, where all the old forts were and the old castles, like all that history has such a huge impact on us. I mean, that's why I don't know. It does on me, that's for sure. I mean, I can watch something or go into an old chateau and just look at the walls and smell the history, taste it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a privilege for you guys. I think.
Certainly could do it there.
Yeah, I bet. So, so that would be like the most. That would be the role that had the most emotional impact in your career.
That you mean? Sorry. So that film did other roles I'm thinking about. It was also like Rhymes for Young Ghouls had an interesting. It was nice. Well, there are so many in different moments. Like even recently, can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Sometimes it's a small role, and it's really moments. Like recently, I was in a film called Restless River, based on a novel by Gabriel Roy, and we shot in Kuujjuaq. So just being with the Inuit there and experiencing and just living there and going there in April and August was. I had been fishing there 20 years later to see how much it changed and how much it didn't. That was a wonderful experience. So those are the slices that I try to, remember to keep. And for example, Rhymes for Young Ghouls was a film about, residential school horrors and violence, done in a very creative way by Jeff Barnaby. And during our screenings, I had this woman. Can I hear you? Can you hear me? And can you hear me? Yeah. So I had during our screening, we'd have this woman come up and literally in tears say that I really embodied that evil that she knew, and she was just to grab him and hold him, and like the producers are like, holy shit, but it felt that she needed to do that or whatever, and it was just a spontaneous thing. But that really makes you understand that even though I have no idea of what residential horrors could ever have been, but to see it in the people, it drives home the experience, an experience that I would never be able to understand. But when someone does that, says that to you, and the reaction afterwards, it really makes you understand part of a greater problem and part of a greater history of our country and what we had to deal with.
Yeah, and how it can be easily brought back.
Sure.
One of the things when I when you and I speak and all that, one of the I wouldn't say the sad part, but so when you guys produce a movie or you go on location, and sometimes you go to crazy places, like you said, places that are worth visiting. So I was told the only bad part about that, it's like a lot of actors have told me this, well, actresses and actors, is that they've been all over the world, but they've never seen anything because they rarely have enough time to stick around. Like they're there for the production, they do their work, and then they leave. Is that something like, have you ever taken more time than allowed to, because you're in a place that you just feel, you need to stick around and you want to see more?
Yeah, you broke up your question, but it sounds like you get whisked away to these locations and you can't enjoy them, so to speak. I mean, that obviously happens a lot. Ideally, if you get whole days, you can enjoy some of it. The idea is really is to enjoy the experience so much, not just the on-set experience, and that can happen even in studio with the people. I recently played a small role in United States versus Billie Holiday at Mel's, which I know well. It's not that's exotic, but the people there that day, we had a camaraderie and just listening to the actors. Like you mentioned, everybody's always right, but if we took more time to listen to their life stories, it's just those kind of exchanges, especially older actors, are very invaluable to me more and more. And those moments, I was in a smaller film, but Alan Alda was in it. And I spoke half an hour with Alan Alda. He's brilliant. He's heartwarming. Just to be that moment, I still remember today. It was just wonderful. It was a wonderful experience.
Wow, that's good. We're going to go back to your career, and you're going to talk to me a little bit more about fishing, because you did, like you said, you produced a show that passed on television, and where it was called. I'm sorry, what was it called again?
Yeah,
I know the title too.
It was called Hooked with Mark Krupa. It was done with Bonterra Productions, my Ihor Massachusetts, who did Great Canadian Rivers and Parks, wonderful cinematographer, Gemini award-winning cinematographer. And that made us go all over Canada. That was an incredible experience because I love fishing so much, and I got to fish in every province over a year and a half.
How many episodes did you do?
It was just one season. It was done actually after September 11th when the Canadian Tourism Commission wanted to help sponsor tourism in the north, so we got to finance it. Sadly, it became difficult after to continue because most fishing shows are kind of a bit cheesy, and even I can't watch them. But this was really more about the experience outdoors, travel, meeting passionate people about the outdoors. And what I like about fishing is that it's the metaphor of angling. What I mean by that, it's the metaphor for casting, for that connection which has long since been forgotten. And that's something that I want to continue in different versions. I have actually a screenplay right now called When Roads Become Rivers, and that's very much the thematic of that. It's one of my major projects now.
But you're passionate. You're a passionate. Oh, I can hear myself now. That's funny. You're a passionate. I keep repeating myself because I hear myself in your microphone. That's funny.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just going to say in one shot.
Okay.
You're a passionate fisherman. You know, I see you on Facebook, and you go fishing, and you enjoy fishing. And you seem to have been fishing like even before that TV show. You've been around like that sport for a long time. It's really part of you now.
Oh, passionate would be a mild understatement. I would call it more of a complete, utter disorder. It's consumed most of my life. It started when I was younger. I guess the rough childhood thing. My uncle took me under his wing and actually taught me. This is before my grandfather had done so. Brought me to the lake, and I was amazed by these creatures that live under the water and you don't see them. But then you throw a bait or lure and they come up. And my uncle would always take me to Chateauguay River in New York and these trout. And the river was such a fascinating experience to me. I would walk downstream of the river, casting worms behind rocks, and then all of a sudden, boom, a brown trout would grab it. And like, whoa, no way! What's behind this? What's behind this turn of the river? What's behind that turn of the river? Then in high school, I met a group of people who were just as crazy about me, maybe even more about fishing. So instead of putting up like Sports Illustrated girls in our lockers, we'd have fish in our lockers, like tons of fish. And the other weird, crazy thing to show how insane we were is that in our dreams at night, that's why I call the series When Roads Become Rivers, all the typical streets we knew, the familiar streets, the familiar corridors of our schools, at night when we dream of them, they became flooded rivers. Well, Freud would maybe have a couple things to say about that, but anyway. So it's just that this meandering source, this river, has been a continuing. I like the film actually. A river runs through it, kind of a beautiful film. But so fishing has been a thing, sort of an escapist pleasure, a need to connect. And even today, if I'm having a rough day, stressing out, I go to my canoe not far and just enjoy the sunset, just to reconnect with nature. I did martial arts for a long time. That was a big source of connection and really relaxed me. Then that, just because it was too far, I couldn't do that. And, that wasn't working out. But fishing stayed and continues to stay, even though this year was a horrible year. The water was too warm, but the sunsets, if I didn't have fishing, I don't know, man, it would be, I would feel quite disconnected.
It's your therapy.
Yes, it is. Yes, for sure.
That's so weird. Okay, so then you created that series. It lasted about 1 year, a season.
Yeah, that's 1 year. It was sad that we couldn't do it more. I was a bit saddened about it, but such is life.
But why? Like, you go fishing all the time. Why don't you make it into a web series?
I thought about that too. I'm getting that's still in the works of doing it. We needed some financing, but I am more into cruise now. No, that's definitely on the agenda. In fact, the idea I had in terms of a marketing one was actually to do a fishing series in tandem with the feature film I wanted to produce. So that's an idea I'm toying around, and just now kind of COVID threw a wrench in everything about travel and everything. So I'm thinking about that some more. But no, that's definitely an option. Maybe starting off small and then letting a fan group expand. And these web ideas of yours, I look forward to continuing to chat with you, because there are many, and I do believe that if we can find a voice, and certainly the thing with fishing is I'm linked to a bigger sort of fan base of anglers, so it would be nice to have. We have so many links to share it, so there'd be a lot of viewers.
You're already there.
Yeah, they're already there. Exactly, correct.
Right,
correct.
And you're already fishing. And
Yeah,
you're already doing the job. You're already taking pictures. And today, with you can shoot 4K with the phone.
Oh my God!
By the way, if you have earphones you can plug in, would be good, because I keep hearing myself.
Okay, I'm scared that if I do that, I will. Okay, let me try it.
Let's just try it.
Okay, I'm gonna try it and see.
The wonders of podcasting. I see. Now, what I'm understanding is that when he plugs his earphones, his microphone stops working. Now, that's funny. So today we're here with Mark Krupa.
Can you hear me?
Director. Oh, there he is.
Can you hear me? Okay. No, I don't know. It didn't. I don't think it worked.
Okay, no problem. See, I don't hear myself anymore, so I guess it worked in a way.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, that's good. Where were we? Yeah. So it's an interesting thing to do, and you could. Oh, actually, I can mute you. There's a trick here. Nice. So I can mute your mic while I talk. So that would fix it. Okay. The thing is, you're already there. You're already doing the fishing. We can shoot 4K with a phone, or you can bring a 5D Mark II, which would be plenty to do whatever you need, because I think it shoots 2 minutes or 10 minutes at a time, and you can do the montage after and just talk to the camera while you're doing whatever it is you're doing. So you could have a Vimeo understanding and make it monetized through Google ads, or like I created my own brand of clothing, which is here, Kings and Bros, right? Oops, sorry, wrong sleeve. See, Kings and Bros. That's my brand of clothing. And so that's the brand of clothing that's going to be sponsoring this podcast and my other productions. So you can be, in today's world, you can become your own sponsor. It's longer. It's easier to go get like someone, like if I went to get a soft drink company or some company wants to sponsor me, I won't refuse it. But in the long run, if I can feed myself through my own brands, then it's doable. So in your case, let's say you did do a fishing series, we could create handlers. You could have a sponsorship with fishing rods. There are ways for you to create and monetize those things, because it's not like you're going to be creating a new expense, because you go fishing every single week or almost every 2 weeks. So you're already there. You might as well try to find a way to produce it.
Yeah, that's true. Also, sometimes I really need to disconnect and just not worry about filming. And that's why I was an outdoor photographer a lot. So sometimes just taking pictures relaxes too. But you're absolutely right. Our original series was very, I mean, we used, with in Hooked, we had helicopter shots, and we had underwater. But you're right, it could be much more of a travel interpersonal show. So I'm toying around with all those ideas. And even with small crews, you could do so much more. And so I am looking at that very, very closely.
Sorry. If you look, research a web series, and you're going to find out that, like, I know guys that are shooting right now for Discovery Channel, and not just for the web, right? And it's them and 2 GoPros. And there are all the kids of self-filming, and they do all the things. And you were saying you wanted to relax, and I respect the fact that you want to relax. But we don't live in the world of 2000, even though we are, where people want to be educated. Again, what they want is they want to know what you're doing and what's going on with you, and why are you so passionate about fishing. It won't be about, over here, there's a current going down and the type of fish goes up, so you should just put your lure there. It's too much detail. That's not what they want to know anymore. They want to see you have fun, enjoy it. And there is part of it that's educational, but it doesn't have to be like 100% educational. So you could just be like making a video like you're doing it for your sister's daughter, and make it into a production. And eventually what happens is that you become better at it, and it starts doing fluently, and at some point you don't even realize that you're doing it. A little bit like the same thing for me in my podcast. The more I'm going to do them, better I'm going to get. Less buggy it's going to get. I'm going to find better techniques. And like you said, like COVID-19 makes it more complicated for me, because we always have to do remote, which means we never know how it ends up. So the same thing would happen with your fishing web series. Anyway, I really believe that you could find a way, like next summer, and even finance your fishing trips.
Well, that would be I think I need to hire you as a producer. We're going to chat about that, because I'm ready. I'm ready. And you might like fishing too. I was scared before, the way when you were showing your merchandise, that you were going to like show me your underwear. That's why I was getting, I had some more rosé though, so it's all good.
Yeah, sadly, my underwear are just really boring. I have really cool stuff. Everything is cool, but that.
Okay, but you seem like the kind of guy who has really sexy socks.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, da-na-na-na-na. Hey,
the black socks. I'm a man in black, man. You should know that. I like my classics. So underwear and socks are black.
Nice.
So no. And the rest, though, I got my cool. Go to my site, kingsandbros.com, and check out the stuff I have. I have a cool t-shirt that's coming out very soon with like a huge mouth, and it says "Everybody's always right." And I'm going to be selling that merch there. I got cups. I have them here too. And so, yeah, you can, like I said, there's a way for people to self-produce. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's not going to take 6 months and you're rich. It'll take years for you to get the ball, make it into money. But people, like everybody that's made on the internet, were extremely patient and just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. Well, I think we lost our friend Mark, so I'll keep talking to you guys. Mark has left the building, so yeah, they've just kept at it. That's the way they've been able to monetize whatever they're doing. And So in Mark's case, he's an avid fisherman, and I invite you to go check it out. Check out what he does. But I mean, this guy fishes some serious serious fish. Here, Mark is back. Hey, Mark, hold on a second. Let me add you to the stream.
Yeah.
Hey, I know you.
Man, this internet stuff is weird. We always get ejected. It's like actors. I got that role. No, you didn't. You're too big. You're too small. You're too cute. No, you're too ugly.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's all a question of preference. It's like a bank. It's like a Desjardins. You know, it's all about the person that's hiring, not about the person that's in front of them.
Aye.
So, so you just said something really funny. Technology. Yeah. So you know what? Here, I can finally do my podcast, but like high-speed internet has existed for a while, right? And I've been pushing for it here for a long time.
5G towers, they're coming to take over the world, Styles.
Yes. You know they can walk, right? And fly.
That's
and they go,
right. They can.
But I finally got high-speed internet. I mean, you have no idea. And you know me, like I'm a computer guy. I have like 6 computers running servers. I was running on 5 megs per second. Like I was running on 80s speed. So now they finally brought fiber optics to my house and I'm moving.
You know, the 80s are underrated. You know, the 80s had a lot of stuff going for them. You know, I used to be a cage dancer. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You know, being jailed and dancing in a jail does not make you a
in my mind, it does.
A lot of things in your mind going on.
Yeah.
So what's your next project? You were talking to me about your next project that you're writing right now. And is it the one with a little bit of humor and a dark side? Is that your? Yeah,
well, I have 2 that I'm doing concurrently. I'm finishing up this. We're doing a web series with the Quebec novelist Marie-Christine Atrana Reeves, and it's based on her Zeter novel. It's called Twin Worlds. So it's a sci-fi, and it's very cool. And I'm looking forward to finishing that one up. We're just applying now for final financing, and I decided to self-produce myself this In the Cards dark comedy web series about artists who get oligarchs to look after them, and it's artists looking for love and happiness in all the wrong places, and all of a sudden they find themselves, what is it that they're willing to sacrifice to get what they really need or want? And so it's a bit of a dark comedy in that respect, and it takes place in Montreal and all of that. And so we'll see.
Are you bringing back some of the original actors from Echelon in that series?
I am. You know, I certainly am. Who will suffer Faustian bargains. And, you know, how much are you willing to sell your soul for that Sleeman commercial?
Well, yeah. A couple of beers.
At least I go for a half case at this point.
Yeah, 6 beers. With 6 beers, but you keep the bottle so you get the 10 cents.
These are COVID times, exactly.
Yeah, don't COVID, man. Yeah, no comment. You know, I have 2 young kids, so COVID's been killing me. And like, imagine you living in the U.S. right now, right? What's going on with the elections, the fires, and Seattle? That's like really horrible.
I know.
And we're lucky here, you know, and we're complaining about our prime minister, but you know, we're really lucky that we have what we have here.
I hear you. Yeah.
If you had one country other than Canada to live in, which one would it be?
Well, New Zealand seems pretty sexy now. I've always wanted to go to Iceland. I think Iceland is a place my Viking heritage, or my wannabe Viking heritage, would love to at least travel to. Those 2 pop up. I'm saying else. I love Czech Republic a lot when I was there. So those are the 3 that I think about. That yeah, I did.
The Czech Republic is a nice country.
It's cool. Prague is gorgeous. The cities. I love.
Yeah. Sorry.
Prague is unbelievable. I love Poland. Poland is really nice. I didn't visit it too long. So those are the 2. I've never been to New Zealand or Australia, but that would come up, I think. And Iceland, yeah, that's a little.
That's a nice place, Iceland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So listen, I want to thank you for popping on my show. I really appreciate you coming. We're going to make sure that we're going to see everything you do in the future, and I'll help you promote your stuff. You know I will. And whenever you share something, I'll be glad to share it with everybody.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much, Stas. You keep well, and I really, really love your socks.
Thanks, you buddy. You know, I wear them just for you. You know that, right? Next time I come and see you, I'll just wear the socks.
Ooh, that's a scary image. Now I can't get that out of my head. Think of a pink elephant. Think of a pink elephant. Okay, I'll be.
Listen, having that in your head may just be, you know, like a break.
That's it. Exactly. Okay, exactly. Merci. Thanks, Stas. Keep all
Thank
Stas.
you, buddy. Have a good one. Thanks. So that was Mark Krupa, actor, actor extraordinaire, writer, producer. Check him out, Mark A Krupa. You can find him on IMDb. And thank you for watching. And this is the end of our show. If you want to help us, so make sure you subscribe. You can subscribe to our podcast on Podbean, on Podbean.com, iTunes. Now we're on iTunes. Finally, we're on iTunes. iHeartRadio, Audible, so many other places. So, you know, make sure you join us there. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. As a matter of fact, since we just started the YouTube channel, we don't have enough subscribers to create our own URLs. So go ahead, find my name, Ghislain Styles Roy, or Ghislain Roy Styles, and check me out there. And make sure you subscribe and become a member. And go to kingsandbros.com. Let me put that there so you guys see it, right? So I got merchandise there, kingsandbros.com. So go to my website, get yourself a t-shirt, a hoodie, a glass or cup. I even have high heels with the logo Kings and Bros, and it's a really cool logo, by the way. KB with the, where is it? There it is. Yeah, there it is. Right, the KB logo. So check it out. Enjoy it. Thank you very much for coming on, listening to our podcast, and I'll see you next week with another special guest. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.